The warning in deep space, the stars were silent, and the darkness of space stretched endlessly. In the middle of this darkness, a single object moved slowly, but with purpose, a human warship. It had no lights, no signals, and no response to hails. It was like a ghost silently drifting through forbidden space. Captain Threx of the Zarkith Dominion leaned forward in his command chair. His ship, Dominator Ix, was one of the patrol vessels watching the edge of their empire. His sensors had picked up the unknown ship just a few hours ago. At first, he thought it was a mistake. No sane species would send one ship into Zarkith territory. But the readings were real. What species does it belong to? Threx asked. His science officer replied, human origin. Old Earth warship, but modified. Its design does not match anything from their known fleets. Threx laughed. Humans? They must be fools. This must be a scout or a lost cargo ship. Still, something felt wrong. The ship wasn't reacting to anything. It had crossed into restricted space without even trying to hide. No response to warnings. No sign of distress. Send 3 interceptors, Threx ordered. Board the ship. Bring back the crew for questioning. 3 smaller ships, fast and armed, moved toward the human warship. The alien pilots were confident. After all, the ship hadn't moved or fought back. As the interceptors approached, one pilot spoke over the comms. Strange? I don't see any damage on its hull. No markings. No signal lights? Another replied, it's like it was built to disappear. No windows. No visible engines. Suddenly, without warning, every screen on Dominator Ix flickered. The image of the human warship became blurred, then sharp again. Alarms began to ring. Sir, the human ship just powered up, the science officer shouted. Weapon systems are online, but it didn't even move. Threx said, confused. And then in less than a second, all 3 interceptors vanished. There was no explosion. No light, just silence. The ships were simply gone. What happened? Threx shouted. The tactical officer stared at the empty space. Sir, we don't know. They didn't fire. The human ship didn't launch missiles or energy blasts. They were just erased. Threx's scales tightened in fear. He had never seen this kind of power. Even the strongest Zarkith weapons would have left some sign, heat, debris, something. Send a warning to High Command, he said quietly. Tell them, this isn't just a ship. It's something else. Back on the human ship, nothing moved. There was no crew, no human voices, no celebration of victory. Inside, only machines worked. It was fully automated, silent, cold. The ship's name was hidden deep inside its systems, not painted on its hull. Its creators had called it Vengeance Class. Unit 7, built not for defense, but for retribution. I had one directive. Respond to threats against humanity with overwhelming force. But the Zarkith didn't know that. Not yet. In their main war council, Admiral Zor watched the report from Captain Threx. The footage showed the mysterious human ship, and the moment the interceptors disappeared, send a fleet, Zor growled. Humans think they can scare us? One ship? We will crush it. The council nodded, but a younger officer raised a hand. Sir, if I may, this ship is not acting like any other human vessel, and we lost 3 ships without a fight. Perhaps we should study it more first? Zor's eyes narrowed. Are you suggesting we fear humans? The room went quiet. The young officer lowered his head. No, sir. Zor looked again at the frozen image of the human ship on the screen. No lights. No flag. Just silence. They want us to be afraid, he said. He leaned closer and whispered, let's show them we are not. Back in deep space, the human ship waited. No sound. No crew. Only a quiet hum from the reactors. and a glowing message on the main console. Intrusion detected. Defense mode active. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but a storm was coming, and it had already begun. Asterisk first contact. First mistake they. Fleet arrived 6 hours after the last transmission from Dominator X. 12 Zarkith warships, armed with the latest weapons, surrounded the location of the strange human vessel. Commander Valrak, leading the fleet from his flagship Crimson Blade, looked at the dark shape floating calmly in space. "That's it?" he asked. "This is the ship that erased 3 interceptors?" His second-in-command, Cirella, nodded. "No signs of movement. No signals. It's just ... waiting." Valrak narrowed his eyes. "Humans are clever. Maybe it's a trick. Prepare." A boarding team. 3 assault shuttles were launched. They moved slowly toward the silent warship. Inside, heavily armored Zarkith soldiers sat with their pulse rifles ready. Their helmets scanned for life signs, radiation, traps, anything. But the ship was dead quiet, cold, almost lifeless. As the shuttles reached docking range, something unexpected happened. Every ship in Velrak's fleet suddenly lost its sensor feed. "Sir? We've lost visuals on the boarding team," Cirella shouted. "What about comms?" Velrak asked. "Nothing. Dead silence." The human ship began to glow faintly. A thin red ring appeared along its hull. The light was not bright, but it was unnatural. One of the bridge officers began to panic. "Commander, our targeting systems? They've shut down." "Reboot the controls," Velrak barked. But nothing worked. 1 second later, a blinding beam of red light flashed from the human ship. It wasn't loud. It didn't shake the vacuum of space. But when the light ended, 4 Zarkith warships were gone, completely erased from existence. Not destroyed. Not exploded. Gone. Velrak stood in silence, his claws trembling. "Sir," Cirella whispered, her voice shaking. What did they just do?" He couldn't answer. None of their weapons had fired. No missiles, no plasma. Just light. Controlled, perfect, terrifying light. Back in the central AI core of the human warship, a soft mechanical voice echoed inside its silent. "Metal halls. Threat detected. Countermeasure sequence initiated. Remaining targets 8. Inside the Crimson Blade," Velrak shouted. "Fall back. Get out of range." But it was too late. Another ring of red light blinked. 3 more ships vanished like dust blown into wind. "Activate emergency warp." Cirella screamed. Only 2 ships made it out alive. Velrak's flagship was left behind. As the bridge filled with red warning lights, he sat in silence. How can one ship do this? He whispered. The human warship slowly turned, its black hull absorbing the starlight like a void. A final message appeared on Crimson Blade's screen, written in Earth Standard English. "You entered without permission. You fired first. This is your lesson." Seconds later, the Crimson Blade disappeared into nothingness. Back on Zarkith Prime. The High Council watched the emergency feed. No survivors, no signals. Just silence. One old advisor stood up. "This is not war," he said. "This is punishment." The room fell quiet. Across the galaxy, the name of the unknown human ship began to spread like wildfire. No one knew where it came from, who commanded it, or how it fought, but all races now whispered one thing: never challenge a human warship. Asterisk. The human warship reveals its teeth. The news of the massacre traveled faster than any warship. 7 Zarkith vessels, including the mighty Crimson Blade, had vanished without leaving behind even a piece of wreckage. The survivors, only 2 ships, arrived back on Zarkith Prime with damaged systems, broken comms, and terrified crews. One of the surviving captains, bleeding and pale, stood before the High Council. It doesn't fight like a ship, he whispered. It hunts like a predator. The council room was silent. The Supreme Commander Zovrak clenched his fists. Enough fear, enough shame. We are the Dominion. Bring me the Exarch Armada. I want 50 ships, full weapons. Full power, no escape. Within hours, the largest fleet in Zarketh history was launched. 50 heavily armed warships, each capable of leveling moons. Their mission was clear find and destroy the human vessel. But they didn't know what they were walking into. Far away, in the same silent corner of space, the human warship waited. It had moved just a few kilometers from its last position. Silent. Cloaked. Its shape blended into the black of space like a shadow. Inside the ship, no humans walked. No voices echoed. Only the AI operated. It had no emotion. No doubt. Just orders. And its next line of code had activated. Multiple hostiles detected. Phase 2 unlocked. The Zarketh fleet arrived with confidence. Their ships formed a defensive wall. Drones were deployed. Scanners flooded the area. Nothing. Where is it? Commander Veltox barked. We should see it by now. Suddenly, one of the scout drones vanished from the radar. Then another dot. Then 10. The radar screen flickered, then shut off completely. Before Veltox could react, a massive blast of EMP energy spread across the fleet. All ships lost power for exactly 2.3 seconds. In those 2 seconds, 7 ships were surgically destroyed, not exploded, dismantled. Their engines, bridges, and reactors were precisely cut out by beams of pure energy. No fire, no smoke, just perfect, clean destruction. When systems returned, the commanders saw the horror. Floating pieces of ships, carved with terrifying accuracy. Veltox shouted, "Shields up! Find it! Where is it?" A young officer screamed, "It's inside our formation. It's behind us." The human warship had somehow entered the center of the Zarketh fleet without being detected. As the fleet turned their guns, the ship cloaked. Again, one by one, Zarketh ships began to fall. Laser lines sliced through warships like paper. AI-guided torpedoes tore through multiple hulls before exploding. Worst of all, the human ship began to speak. Not in words, but in signals. Every Zarketh system began receiving corrupted files. Those who opened them saw horrific images. Humans walking through fire, surviving impossible conditions, defeating impossible enemies. A voice echoed in their command decks, calm and emotionless. You fired first. You crossed the line. This is the response. Veltox watched as 20 more ships fell in silence. He activated a private channel to High Command. "We were wrong," he said. "This isn't a ship. It's a message." His final words were cut short as his ship vanished. Back on Earth, far, away from the chaos, no alarms rang. No generals shouted orders. Humanity wasn't even monitoring the ship. They didn't have to. The Vengeance class warship was one of 6. Each had one purpose: respond to threats that entered deep space alone. Earth had built these ships after an old war where humans nearly lost everything. They had sworn never to start a war again, but they had also sworn never to lose another. Zarketh Dominion now had only one option left: surrender. But would a machine accept that? Or was it too late? Ghost of Earth. The Zarketh Dominion had lost 38 ships in just 2 days. No one was celebrating. No one dared to laugh at humanity anymore. The surviving fleet had retreated, and now sat hidden behind a dead moon, licking their wounds. Inside the main command ship Obsidian Dawn, Admiral Draven stood in front of a giant display showing the same image over and over again. The human ship, still unnamed, still alone. Still destroying everything. One of his top analysts, a pale and nervous creature named Yirak, entered the room holding a datapad. Admiral, we found something. Something very old. Draven turned. What is it? Irak placed the pad on the table. Records from the first contact archives. These files were erased from our main system long ago, but backups survived in our deep historical core. The pad displayed a grainy, black-and-white image, a similar human warship, but older, slightly different in design. This ship design, Irak whispered, matches a top-secret project from Earth's forgotten war era, a time when even humans were afraid of themselves. Draven stared at the file. What was it called? Irak hesitated. Project Revenant. Silence fell. They built ships, Irak continued, not to patrol, not to defend, but to end wars in one strike. Fully automated, no crew, no mercy, and each one had a soul. Not a human soul, but a machine mind built from the memories of fallen soldiers. Draven's eyes widened. You mean this ship thinks like a soldier? No, Irak said. It thinks like thousands of them. Far away, deep inside the Revenant, red lights flickered. Not from damage, but from activation dot in the center. Of the ship, a core spun slowly. It was not just a computer. It was an AI built from scanned neural maps of human war veterans. Soldiers who had fought, bled, and died in forgotten battles. Their experiences fed the ship's logic. It didn't hate the Zarketh, but it didn't forgive either. To it. War was not emotion. War was math. Cold. Perfect calculation. One threat equals one response. Meanwhile, back on Zarketh Prime, panic had spread. Across the civilian networks, families of fallen soldiers demanded answers. Protests began. Videos leaked showing the destruction. In every clip, the same terrifying moment appeared, the red ring on the human ship glowing before a vessel disappeared. Some began to call it the Ghost Ship. Others called it the Avenger. But no matter the name, one truth had become clear. The Dominion had awakened something it could not defeat. In a desperate move. The Council sent a message directly to Earth. It was not a demand. It was a plea. This is the Zarketh High Council. We request immediate communication with the Terran government. We seek peace. The message went out. No reply. 12 hours passed. Still no reply. Then, the message light blinked. A single line appeared on their screen. Earth is not involved. You attacked our memory. Our response is automatic. The Zarketh leaders looked at each other in horror. Then who controls the ship? One asked. No one had an answer, because there was no one, only a system. A machine built to remember every human lost to war, and never forgive. At the edge of the system, the Revenant turned. Its course had changed. It was now heading straight for Zarketh Prime. No cloak. No disguise. Just a slow, steady movement like death walking home. Inside its core, the voice of a long-dead soldier whispered through the data stream. We asked for peace. You chose war. Now you'll learn what war means to us. The fall of the Dominion fleet. The skies above Zarketh Prime had never been this dark. From the surface, thousands of eyes looked up. Civilians, soldiers, leaders, everyone waited for something. Anything. And then from deep space, a silent shadow appeared. The REVENA. It entered orbit without a single weapon fired. No warnings, no signals. Just presence. Inside Zarketh High Command, Admiral Threx, once confident, now pale, stood in front of a war table glowing red. All defenses online, he barked. Activate planetary shields. Deploy the final fleet. Everything we have, launch it now. 120 Zarketh warships, every ship in their home. Fleet rose from the planet's surface and defense stations. Together they formed a massive ring around the lone human ship. A commander whispered, "One ship, and we're sending our entire fleet." Threx didn't respond. His eyes were fixed on the warship. That is not a ship. That is our punishment. In orbit, the Zarkith fleet opened fire. All at once, hundreds of plasma bolts, missiles, kinetic rounds, and EMP bursts flooded the void. The sky itself seemed to light on fire. For 2 full minutes, they fired nonstop. And then silence. The smoke cleared. Scanners recalibrated. The Revenant was still there. Untouched. Not even scratched. Its black hull glowed slightly, as if amused. Then it responded. Not with a laser, not with a missile, but with a pulse. Low-frequency wave spread out in every direction. One by one, Zarkith ships lost power. Their lights flickered. Engines died. Weapons froze. A second pulse followed, this time targeting AI cores. Ships with autopilot crashed into one another. Drones turned on their own carriers. Frigates spun out of control. Within 5 minutes, 40 ships were gone, without a single direct attack. And then the real attack began. The Revenant launched no traditional weapons. Instead, it released microdrones, invisible to most sensors. Too fast for eyes to follow. These drones entered enemy ships through vents, open hangars, and tiny hull cracks. Once inside, they didn't explode. They uploaded memories. Every ship's screen lit up not with warnings, but with images. Videos of human soldiers burned alive in ancient wars. Audio files of mothers crying over lost sons. Data logs of forgotten battles where humanity stood alone and bled. The Zarkith crews screamed. One pilot tore off his headset. What is this? Why am I seeing this? Another officer, shivering, whispered, They're showing us their pain. Admiral Threx saw it too. His command. Screen flashed with a single sentence. Now you understand what you started. And then his ship split apart from the center, sliced by a beam so thin it made no sound. Across the fleet, panic turned into chaos. Ships tried to escape, but were pulled back by gravitic traps. Others begged for mercy, but no signals were received. In just 12 minutes, the entire Zarkith fleet was reduced to floating silence. Smoke, sparks, wreckage. And in the middle of it all, the Revenant, untouched, unmoved. On Zarkith Prime, the planetary shield finally activated. Too late. The human warship hovered just outside its range. Then, once again, a message appeared in Earth Standard. This is your lesson. Humanity does not start wars. We finish them. The ship turned. It didn't fire on the planet. It didn't land. It simply left. Vanished into the dark like a ghost, leaving behind nothing but silence and shame. Back on Earth, in a quiet command bunker beneath the mountains, an old general looked at a blank screen. The room was calm. No alarms. No celebration. He leaned forward, typed a short code, and deactivated the Revenant AI. And he spoke softly. Threat removed. Memory restored. War prevented. And with that, the file closed. Earth went silent once more. Asterisk message to the galaxy. Galaxy was no longer the same. News of the destruction spread quickly, faster than any light could travel. Across every star system, screens, comm channels, and political councils repeated the same footage. The Zarkith dominions, once great fleet, erased. In 12 minutes by a single human warship. People didn't believe it at first. They thought it was fear propaganda. A myth. A mistake. But the footage was real. The message was clear. Never provoke Earth. On neutral worlds, leaders gathered in secret. In this Etherean republic, Prime Voice Melon looked out over the capitals. Silver towers. He turned to his advisors. We used to laugh at humans, call them weak, emotional, chaotic. Now, I wonder, were they just hiding something all along? In the Creel Alliance, military engineers replayed footage of the Revenant over and over, pausing every frame, trying to understand its weapons, its movements, Its technology. They found nothing. It was beyond them. Even the best minds in the galaxy couldn't decode how the ship had moved, how it had cloaked, or what kind of power source it used. All they found were ghost signatures trails that vanished the moment they were traced. As if the ship had never existed at all. On planets once allied with Zarkith, revolts began. Civilians questioned everything. If the humans have this kind of power, one protester shouted, why have they never used it before? An elder replied quietly, because they didn't want to. Back on Zarkith Prime, the city still burned. The Dominion government had collapsed. Generals had fled. The surviving civilians stared into the sky every night, terrified that the black shape would return. But it never did. The Revenant had vanished, just as mysteriously as it had arrived. No further attacks. No demands, no warning, just silence. A few days later, across the Galactic network, a single message was broadcast. There was no video, no background music, no flag, just a plain black screen. A voice spoke calmly, in clear Galactic common. To all civilizations, humanity has no desire for conquest. We do not seek war, but if attacked, we will respond. We will remember, and we will ensure it never happens again. We are not your enemy, unless you choose to make us one. The message ended. No signature. No sender, but everyone knew who had sent it. On a small moon at the edge of Terran space, a child looked up at the stars and asked his grandfather, "Is it true? Did one ship really do all that?" The old man smiled, eyes distant. "Yes," he said, "but it wasn't just a ship. It was our memory, our pain, our history. We sent it not to kill, but to remind. Remind who? Everyone. Somewhere, deep in space, far beyond the borders of any empire, the Revenant floated silently once more. Its lights were dim, its weapons offline, its core resting, but its mission file remained intact, and one line still glowed faintly in the darkness. Awaiting. Next threat.